Proart Podcast.
Welcome everyone to our Experience Proart video series. We are glad to have you today. In this continuing series, we'll be discussing and hosting customers, industry experts, and players who are interested in sharing knowledge, expertise, and thoughts about successful digital transformation projects, the execution, the onboarding, and everything to make sure that this is repeatable and successful. Welcome. In our today's series, we'll talk about the borrowed years. And here we'll be talking about how do we leverage on industry expertise and also functional expertise with your implementation partner. How do we make sure that the years of similar projects executed elsewhere can bring value to your project? Our guest for today's conversation is Sam Chalo. He'll introduce himself briefly. And today I'm also co-hosting with Ahmed Zaini, my colleague from Proart. We'll be discussing about the borrowed years and what experience Sam could share having implemented such a similar project. Sam, if you don't mind, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Patrick and Zaini, for hosting me here today. So my name is Sam Chalo. I'm a systems and marketing expert, and I've been on the receiving end of implementation. So I'm excited to see how today's conversations will pan out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ahmed, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Patrick. Hi, Sam. Thank you for making this happen. It's nice to see our first video in this series going live with our customers. I think my name is Ahmed Zaini, and I'm leading the growth at Proart in different markets, including Egypt, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Kenya as well. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and looking forward for the session.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Zaini, for joining the conversation today. Straight into the discussion for the day, Sam, where we'll want to hear from you as having experience implementation from the client perspective.
Yeah.
We would want to roll back and understand where did your journey begin from the client perspective? What brought you to the point where you said, I think we need a system that can handle this now?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of factors, but the core one was growth. The business was really growing, and the business had multiple arms that we needed to sort of integrate together into one system. We had fragmented systems, so we wanted to bring everything together, but also there was the cost of maintenance of self-hosted system. Right now, a lot of systems are in the cloud, and we were at a place where we were hosting our own. So a few issues there on the infrastructure, plus also the growth and the scale that came with needing to sort of bring all those fragmented systems into. So that's what sort of triggered us to go out there and start looking.
Okay, so on one side, it's an experience of what you're using currently. On the other side, it's the business demanding that we need something more robust, looking out for the current needs and also for the future. Is that so?
Correct.
Okay, so then what brought you to the point of saying, could we look out into the market and see what's out there, and what did you find?
We started looking out there. We had already some people that were working on systems, but we sort of sourced out there to see what we can get. And it was quite a hectic journey, and it actually took very long to source out there. But I think the business need of a proper system that would handle the complexity that the business had was a critical part. When you look at real estate, it has multiple aspects, and most of the time you'd find different businesses have operate individually. So at that point for us, we were doing a lot of the parts of the whole real estate process, from the construction to the management and also the sales part of things. So we were looking for something that could handle everything, track the bag of cement and track the rent or the utility bill at the same time in one system, while connecting that this cement was used to build this unit, and this unit is what is generating this revenue at the end of the day. So we wanted something that could handle all of that. So, and that is what we were actually sort of trying to look for.
Great. And
Yeah.
maybe just to understand, how did you go through the the review of one, the system providers, and two, stepping into how did you choose a partner after you chose that this is the solution, Microsoft is what you want to go with. Then within Microsoft, who does this best? So how did you go through that journey?
So first, there are a couple of considerations we were trying to make. At first, there is the whole software as a service perspective, where you have the software, it's hosted by the provider or hosting it yourself. There's also the perspective of trying to choose whether to build a system yourself or to get one that's already built. So like if I can cascade it down to how these decisions flowed, we started off with whether we should build or not. We decided that's not our core business. We are not in IT or technology, or in real estate. So we decided we would rather just get one that's already built. Then the other thing was whether to have it hosted by ourselves or a SaaS kind of product. Then for that, of course, we went with SaaS, that being the future, and also the fact that all the maintenance, or you hosting yourself, hosting it yourself, also comes with a lot of maintenance weight on the business itself, whether it's you hiring a team to do that maintenance or outsourcing it in different ways. It just needed you to manage it in some way, and you're always on the lookout. Are we up? Are we down? Where are we? Then after that, the other thing that you consider now is, if it is SaaS, then what SaaS ERP are we supposed to look out for? Because looking at the complexity that I mentioned, we needed to sort of get something that can ideally handle all of that complexity. And not very many systems out there do handle that, but there are many ERPs out there that there are a couple of ERPs out there that could handle this. So just trying to look at what was there in the market, and then that's where the Microsoft decision came in. It just the integratedness of it across the tools that we work with was what sort of leaned us into that side. So looking at the decision process to it all, that's from a software perspective. That's what we were trying to weigh. What kind of software and how big, where should it be hosted, and stuff like that. So ideally, that's the process we went to.
Great. And maybe, well, at that, at what point did you decide that what carries more weight in your selection process between a system that fits into the industry requirements versus a software that is, can be shaped into anything that you needed? So at what point did you decide that yes, this is the right software for us, weighing between the two perspectives?
It's so first there's the aspect of the vendors or the partners that we were sort of communicating with at that point, where you'd have to first understand where they're coming from, or for them to be even able to send you a proposal, they have to understand your business in some way. So that's where the aspect of a customized software or something that sort of fits the real estate workspace sort of came out a lot. And the main thing that came out was how much time you had to spend to explain to somebody, this is what I'm looking for. Number one, because either they have not done anything in that industry, or uh, they don't know it at all. So you could have you have different layers of these partners. You'd find somebody who's not done real estate at all. You find somebody who's done real estate as a custom project for some other company, and you'd also find now a partner who has done real estate and has customized something that would almost be plug and play into the system. So that's what we found in the market. And of course, with each of these different people, you find that explaining your business to them or get into that, this is the proposal, this is the quote stage, takes a long time, because if they don't know real estate, then it will take forever for you to get the quote, because they'll keep calling back, please explain this back again, or let's have another meeting so that we understand this aspect, and things like that. So that's what we found in the market, and that's what that process looked like.
And maybe while you are doing the selection process, would you share your experience in terms of how important it was to have a common understanding of how you're going to do the selection internally, and what scoring you might do for different vendors? Because I would imagine a selection committee or panel might be split. And how
Yes.
do you break such ties, or how do you make sure that there's no standoff in such a process?
Mm. So yes, there was a committee to start off, but it was not an easy process at all. It was really tough, because then you'd had to break down things. So first, you have to have a lot of meetings, and everyone in the committee should be in those meetings. So there's a lot of time consumption there. Because if you are not in a meeting and then we come and try and make a decision together, it will be hard, because then now you'll have a broken telephone, or it's reported speech. You don't have an idea. You just go through a PDF. So there was a time aspect of meeting the guys, and then the other part of it then was looking at the how do I sort of vetting the businesses. So you look at how long has the industry has the business been in the industry, or just been operational for? How big is their team? Where do they operate from? Then the other aspect was also looking at customers that they've served, because then we did ask for referrals. Um, we asked for referrals, and we called them, and we could get the feedback from the customers that they have served before. So there was all of that. And then now, of course, there is the financials and the process, because we also wanted to know the process, and we had all of this documentation. We now had our internal review documentation as well, where we would look at, now this is the process that these people are proposing. These are the features or the capabilities we get from what they're proposing, and this is what it would cost. So we would look at the process, we would look at the features, and we would look at how much it would cost, try and sort of compare them based on now what the business wanted at that point and where the business was at that point. And now those will be long-standing meetings, where then we would also try and involve the rest of the team, or the rest of the company, or the core parts of the leadership team, that this is the decision we are trying to make, or just take them through, so that by the time we begin this project, because it's huge, we have buy-in. We just don't make a decision on behalf of the whole company without buy-in from the whole company. So we would also consult or just communicate, this is where we are at, this is what we've been able to do so far, and these are the people, and this is where we've taken this direction. So internally, that's how it looked like. That's how we would do the vetting. That's how we will do the decision making based now on the partners that we had at that point.
Okay. And to conclude the first part, which is the selection and the sourcing journey, maybe you could tell us about how does the financial conversation shape when you're starting the ideation of the project. Did you have a budget in mind? At what point did you have like a firm kind of budget for the project kind of established? And at what point did you also decide that we need to look at a budget maybe for implementation and maybe maintenance, basically what we'd call the total cost of ownership? How did those
Yes.
factors or pointers play in the budget conversation?
So when it comes to the budget part, so there are two aspects. There's the past part that is pretty much constant. It being now a SaaS solution that we had chosen to go with. There's the license costs, and those are standard. They're there. You know that they're there. So that was set, and we knew this is what it would look like. But now when it came to the implementation part of things, that is where there was a lot of, how do I say, confusion. I wouldn't say there was a budget set per se. We will receive the quotes and then now weigh based on what we see ourselves getting out of the system itself and the implementation process. We would weigh. There wasn't ideally a budget. We would look at, okay, this is what we're going to get out of it. Is it a worthy investment for us to make at this point? And we would ask for, we will do what? We would consult outside. This is what you're being charged for this. Is it really how much it goes for? Are we getting a higher quote, or is it something low that we should go with based on also what you're getting? So we would consult outside, and also now as the committee, because we were tasked as the team to make that decision. So as the committee, we will then decide, is this worthy the investment we feel that you're getting out of it? Because on top of now how much it's worth, looking at now an ROI perspective of it, these are the capabilities the business is going to get. This is how long it's going to take. This is the payment methodology of it. It's based on outcomes and not just at a specific or just these based on specific stages of outcomes that you can track and say, okay, now we are able to make this payment because we've been able to see this kind of progress. So there wasn't really a budget, but it was a lot of, you give us the quote and we will consult out there, we will look at the value you're getting out of it and then make the decision from there.
Okay. I think that covers the first part, and my colleague Zaini will be taking up the second part of, now you have the vendor on board and the process of you getting the project all the way to the end. But just to pick some notes from Zaini as well, from other experience, what should customers prepare when doing the selection process, in terms of either should they have a budget in mind, should they have a process established, should they have the right people or consultants? How has it been with other consultants? Maybe Zaini, if you can give us your experience in this journey.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick, for the question. And I guess it's a mix of actually what you have mentioned, because yes, it's important when going for such a project is to understand the average type of investment that you need to do, like Dynamics 365, and of course it's relevant to the scale of the customer, because Dynamics 365 would scale from customers starting from like 20 users up to customers having thousands of users. So different corporates will have different types of investments. So definitely having an average number in the figure in the start is important. And usually customers does this by just engaging in a budgetary stage. So a lot of our customers would ask would have a first round of budgetary proposals that are collected from different vendors. They would go to Microsoft partners, they would go to Oracle partners, SAP partners, and ask for budgetary figures. So that those budgetary figures are then the guidelines for them during the selection process on how they should figure out how much money do they need to invest in such projects. So this is like a step that have been seen being executed with a lot of customers having a budgetary understanding of how much investment and then going further for the detailed requirements. Now, on the second step, what they should be also doing is to have most preferably, of course, a written scope of work of what they are looking for, what they are trying to achieve. And it's not only about the scope of work, but also it's important what are they trying to get out of this ERP implementation or digital transformation project. Is it just a way to have more? Is it control? Are we lacking control in our processes? Is it real time reporting? Is it automation? What exactly are your priorities out of this? And this is really important to be able to know what you are looking for and what system will best fit your needs and requirements. I guess the other part is to have a team for this project. It's not only a digital transformation; it's a complete change management when it comes to ERP systems. So having the right team, having people, of course, it's preferably if you have teams that have been one or two of the team members who have been through ERP implementations before. It will be a lot of help on the team. Will also provide you guidance ahead of what you should expect and what happens during the ERP implementation. We try to do this also like a type of awareness and guiding to our customers. But it's really beneficial if you have team members on board who have experienced ERP implementations before. So I think those are the three things that customers need to do prior to the selection process of the proper ERP that they are looking for.
So back to you, Sam, and once you have the partner identified and contracted and they've come on board, walk us through the journey, the first part of the journey into how you made sure they got the requirements or your business expectations right, and there was alignment in terms of how the project should be completed or executed.
Yeah. So ideally, after the deal is sealed, the work starts, or the rubber meets the road at this point, and this is where things start getting real. And I will say a lot of it from what I experienced was double effort from both us and the partner Proart, and it played a key role that everyone was putting in equal effort. A critical aspect that really helped was the fact that we had a sort of organizational structure or an ownership structure where Proart had its own steering committee, and we had our own steering committee. That helped a lot in keeping things in check, ensuring that you are on going with the plan as had been set. So that was a critical aspect of it. Then now, when it comes to understanding the business, the core aspect was now how the sessions were run, because a big chunk of the time of the whole project was documenting what the business processes are that should go into the system. And what I would say is that process was not easy. We had tried to prepare internally before this process began, where we had tried to document our own processes, so that by the time we're going into these sessions, we are sort of aware, because the processes are usually a lot, especially in a business of that scale. And if you haven't touched on everything, you might because our fear was if you don't get everything documented, then you might miss some core processes that need to be in the system. So this whole process was quite insightful because number one, it's like somebody holding up a mirror to you as you talk about your own processes. So it becomes a chance for you to almost review your processes or look at where they're failing, because this is one core time that you'll be able to just focus on them and focus on all of them at the same time. Most of the time when you're working on processes during business as usual, you'd find yourself, you just focus on specific problems or the one that has a problem. But in this case, you're looking at all of them, the ones that are working, the ones that are not working, and documenting them as you try to now explain how you operate as a business specifically. So there was a key part into how Proart, them having have implemented real estate before, helped a lot, because then we will be able to, there are core parts, there are first principles, there are principles in the real estate industry that you don't need to communicate again. You will just say, now this principle or this part of how real estate operates, we do it like this. Compared to how other businesses operate. So that would make it easier. But if we had a partner who we had to first explain, this is how real estate operates, then this is how we operate, it will become much harder. So that part will become very easy because now Proart knew how to implement a system from a real estate system and had that industry expertise. And then the second part was, or the thing that showed us that they really understood what we wanted, was that there were two, let me say, three different teams. There's the steering committee, there is the functional consultants, who are the people we were with in the meetings, and then there is the technical team. So what made us know or see that our business was really understood was when these people who are not in the meeting, the steering committee, which is now like the leadership of the whole project, came to the meeting and explained to us our processes and told us, this is what our process, this is what we've seen, this is what we've had that you guys are doing, this is how you guys operate, based on now looking at the documentation of what has been done so far. And it was just exactly what we had communicated. So at that point is when we were like, okay, these guys, whoever we were with in the meeting, the functional consultants, understood it, and they were able to document and communicate somebody who was not in the meeting. And that gave us a lot more confidence that their internal processes work, and these people will be able to understand the system and also probably now implement it the way we want it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask Zaini how we take the business requirements and we put them into buckets, or how do you classify them into reviewing what was scope and what was out of scope, and probably how you have that conversation with the customer to prioritize what then should move ahead into the execution phase. Because I would imagine that you have done the requirements, you need to give some feedback. Is a position the same as when you were bidding or you are preparing your proposals and quotations? How does that conversation shape the direction of the project from there?
Yeah, thank you, Benny. That's actually a very interesting question, because it's the approach that you use is completely different when you know the industry and when you don't know the industry. Because when you know the industry that you are engaging in, you know what questions you are going to ask about the scope of work, because you have seen it all. You have seen the end-to-end businesses, what they are looking for. So you know, actually, when you start talking about marketing, so you know what business processes in marketing that you should ask about. When you start talking about sales, about contracts, for example, in the real estate, you know what are the cases in the contracting stage. When you're talking about the construction management, you know what happens with the construction project. So even if the customer has missed out, like selling you one piece of information that would be a future requirement, you actually get to ask this, okay, what about this point? Because you have seen it before and you have you know this is going to be maybe, because if he didn't ask about it now, it doesn't mean that he's not going to be asking about it 2 weeks ahead when we go into another stage of the project. So this actually is really important when you work with someone who knows the industry, because he will ask the questions, even the ones that you missed asking about during this tour. So this makes it a lot easier being able to define the scope of work on the functional level, and then being able to frame this. And also, it's an important part about the second question, moving from one stage to another to the execution stage, because it's also important that when you work with specific industries that you have experiences with, you don't have to, you cut a lot of time in the initial implementation phase, which is usually used for what we traditionally call the requirement gathering or the analysis phase. So in this phase, you actually, rather of sitting with the customers and start asking them about what are you currently doing and give me a detailed requirement, you actually give them the best practice business processes for this industry, and you just highlighted if there's any differences. Do you guys have any differences that from what this is being done? So we just talk about the differences that, of course, each company, each organization will have its own way of doing business. So now we are only discussing what are the differences from the best practice or the blueprint of the business processes. And then this makes it a lot easier for us to move on, because I would say more than half of the execution activities is predicted, and we know how we are going to design this and how we are going to move forward with it for the next stage.
That's a very good point right there. And first takeaway is the importance of having a partner or an implementer who has the experience, having done this before, that they will ask you the questions, they will answer the questions you ask, but also ask you the questions you did not ask, if that makes sense. So that's the importance of working with an implementation partner who's been there and done it before. The next question to Sam is, there will be reviews once the implementation goes in, and there will be things that work or look like they work, and others that don't. Or some others will be recommendations by the implementing partner to change your business process, as you mentioned, to something else. How did you go through that phase of reviewing what has been built for you and accepting it, or basically the process of user acceptance, and also adopting recommendations from the implementer?
Yeah. So the whole process was very, how do I say, collaborative, where the functional consultants were like the point people that they would speak to us. And what would happen is, say during certain implementation of a certain process that we had documented, and it somehow does not fit into how the system operates or is structured, they would communicate as soon as they could, because then now there are open channels. As much as there are structured meetings and all of that, there are open channels where, so we've hit a snag, and this is the snag that we've hit, and this is the solution that we think will work. And that then becomes collaborative, where, because internally we also have an IT team, a team that is also knowledgeable on systems. So there will be a pushback on, okay, what if you did it like this? Then the consultant, so it will be a lot of back and forth, where it's just trying to look at what is the best solution now that we've gotten to this place. So that collaborative aspect, where the functional consultant does not only come with the problem, but also a proposed solution, and also has the capability to take in feedback that you give, and look at how the system could be pushed to fit in your proposed solution as well. So it was mostly collaborative, which is the best part of it, and I think the only or the best way to go around that. And that just made it much easier because it does not seem like the partner has refused to implement this thing for you. It becomes, let's work on finding the best way to get this done, because at the end of the day, the system needs to get implemented. The things that came in place were now, how does this change affect the whole project? Does it extend our timelines? So because you are made aware of that part of the process, then also the proposals you give in place also consider those things. Will this make the project take a lot more time to be implemented? And what kind of priority is this in the business at the very moment that you're in? So heavily collaborative, and also has a lot of consideration on the whole project timeline and what it will take to implement it.
And some, just because you mentioned the collaboration, how important is a project manager in the success of the project? How important is a contribution of the project manager?
The project manager plays a key role because they're almost like an orchestrator of sorts. And in our scenario, we had two, one internally and one from Proart side, and them keeping in tabs of where are we at and what are the current blockers? Why is this thing not moving? Because they were in charge of ensuring these considerations that I'm mentioning of how does this affect the timeline. They were in charge of communicating that. They were in charge of ensuring that we know if this happens, then this is how long that looks like, and it will be real. You have a simulation where if we put this, it adds this number of days, and this is when the project will end. Yeah. So with the software that they're using to track the whole project, they will just, okay, this ideally will take like 5 days to fix. So we put it there in the project and we see, okay, then that pushes the whole project by X number of days. That means we will end on a specific date, which is not what we had planned on completing. So there is more the aspect of making you aware of the kind of decisions everyone is making in the whole project, how it affects the whole project, and also just helping in the prioritization of this is questioning of whether if we add this, is it really priority right now? So that whole steering aspect of it, they play a key role in just all those parts.
Well, thank you. Just to bring back Zaini on a conversation, he mentioned about the importance of change management throughout the life cycle of the project, and maybe on a point regarding conflict management between what you recommend as the expert as a process and what the customer actually wants. So, it's like a doctor and patient scenario where the patient doesn't always want or adopt the recommendation of the doctor. So how important, or how do you navigate this conflict during the implementation phase?
Yeah, that's a really good one, Patrick. Well, first we need to understand that both parties need to understand that it's not a conflict. I mean, we're not here to argue about who's right and who's wrong. Okay, yeah. It's all about the benefit. What the objective should be, that will the business benefit from this better or not, or from this better? Which way of doing things will benefit the business more? So the idea is that if there is something that the ERP is doing it in a specific way, the customer is doing it in another way. Now it's all about explaining why is this best for the business to be changing the way we do business now rather than the previous way we are doing it earlier. And I mean, I believe the majority of times it's not like this way or this way, but what always happens is that you find the middle ground where you try to help the business with not making extreme changes, but still preserve the best practice of the ERP, which is eventually going to help the business do things better than the existing traditional way they were doing it. So yeah, it's always about finding the middle ground and understanding and explaining why adopting ERP best practices is always better for the business.
Okay, sounds good. And maybe still on that point, Zaini, the experience of the implementers and having done this for maybe other markets which probably are more advanced, how do you bridge that gap in terms of going to a client who probably is not ready for a certain process where you have done it before for another client and it worked very well, but you feel they are not ready for this adoption of this process that you have already uh, processed in your system or have already embedded in your system. So how do you balance this? Because you are working in two different markets, one which is quite advanced, and then you have emerging markets such as the markets in East Africa and Africa in general. Yeah.
So I think, whether you are working in advanced markets or emerging markets, businesses' objectives are always similar. I mean, we want to achieve better controls. We want to have more operational efficiency, and we want to be better at what we do using digital systems and automations. And we need to have more visibility on our numbers. From my perspective, I see that everyone is trying to achieve the same thing, whether they are disregarding the market status that they are operating in. So as long as we are working together towards the same objectives, it's just about how we tackle with each other the local requirements. Of course, there are some part of localization requirements that you cannot say that I have to do this the same way that we are doing it in Egypt, for example. Then forget about all the localization requirement that is happening in Kenya. So this is something that's really important because as much as we are coming with recommendations about the industry, we need to be very careful in listening to everything the customer has to say to understand the situation on the ground as well. So there is always like a discussion around. I'm sure, like from my experience, everybody's looking to achieve the same thing. It's just how we achieve it together.
Absolutely. And to close the session, back to you, Sam, if you had to do this again, or if you had to sit with a customer who's looking to start this journey, what would you tell them to look out for in terms of the implementation process?
Mhm. I think the core part is the understanding of the processes, because by the time somebody is a partner and their business is implementing solutions, the technical part is usually well thought out of, but understanding of the business is usually a hard part, because then now you have to teach somebody, and if they take time to understand, if they understand it in a different way than you meant it or than it actually is, that part is really costly, both from a time perspective, money perspective, emotional perspective, because you would have spent time explaining your business and somebody is not getting it. So during the implementation process, if you get a partner who is able to understand and communicate throughout their project team internally, that is a critical part. That is a critical aspect of it. Yeah.
Great. And looks like you didn't get any gray hairs through the project. So would it mean that it was smooth, or did you transfer all the gray hairs to Zaini? Yeah.
It wasn't all rosy. Of course, there are a lot of back and forth, especially in those points where um, this is gonna take the implementation of this the way you actually want it is gonna be longer or gonna cost you a bit more than you had expected. Those parts were heavy. Then it's like going back into the negotiation table and trying to look at how do you negotiate around this, because we want it the way we want it, but the mechanisms as well that the partner comes with is really critical, because sometimes you want it, yes, but you don't want it right now. Or sometimes you want it and it's a blocker. If we don't have this, the system, we cannot go live in the system like this. So if the partner knows how to guide you through that process, it makes it easier, but it's also not the easiest of conversations as well. So the best time you will have is once the deal closes. That's the honeymoon phase. After all of that, it's a lot of fighting of this is what I meant, and trying to get what you actually want as well. Yeah.
Okay. And for Zaini, what would you tell a customer who's looking for a solution and looking at onboarding Proart? What makes us different, and how will we make sure the implementation is successful for the customer?
Yeah, so I'm sure, I mean, especially when it comes to Microsoft technologies, there is a lot of partners all around the world that work in this technology. There's a lot of good partners, good companies. But when you are actually working in an industry, it's really important to focus on who understands your business, because great technical people could be very good with technicalities, but as Sam mentioned, it's important they understand what you're talking about. It's important that they understand what you are looking for from a business perspective, because again, this is business applications. It's not like an independent technical solution that will work or fit in anywhere. This is a business application that is meant to serve your business needs and requirements. So at Proart, we are glad and we are happy that we have multiple industries where we have very good experience. We have did successful implementations for our customers. Whether the real estate and the construction one is, of course, one of them. We also do have other experiences in some other industries, such as manufacturing, the education, and so on. So I'm so assured that if your business is one of those industries, we can definitely help you not only by providing technical advice, but also by providing business value to your organization at this time.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining the conversation today. Quite interesting, discussing from two perspectives, one from an implementer's perspective and also from a client's perspective, and discussing what are the ingredients of successful implementation for your digital transformation project. We'll be having a series of conversations to follow through and also handle other topics in depth, and also invite more guests who can also share their experience with the whole community, and together we can make this possible. We can make successful implementations repeatable and predictable. Thank you and bye-bye.